everybody, welcome to Polymer Clay TV. I'm Elisa, and today we're going to get a little messy. And I say that because we're going to be using liquid clay today. We'll also be using regular clay, but we're also going to be using the liquid clay. And liquid clay is a funny thing. It's not something that you can just wipe away and have it dry. For instance, if you used like a cloth rag, it's never going to dry on your rag. So you want to use paper towels, so have those handy, because that's the best thing to clean up anything with, because number one, you're not going to have a sticky rag and you just throw it away. So that's the first thing. That's keeping clean with this. I'm using Kato poly clay. You can use any brand that you want. I like the Kato because it already comes colored, so you don't have to mess with it. However, if you buy the liquid Sculpey or you buy the Fimo gel, you can color them as well. You can use acrylic paint. You can use some powdered pigments. There are different things that you can color the liquid clay with. However, I like using them pre-colored, but I do color them from time to time myself. So that's what all these are. They come in a wide variety of colors. Like I said, you can mix your own. And the liquid Sculpey comes in gold and silver, which is way, way, way cool. I love that. And I've had a lot of success with that. So you can use whatever colors you want, totally up to you, but this is what I'm using today. So let me give you an idea of what I did here. I used Punchinella. And if you're not familiar with Punchinella, it's basically sequin waste. And when they make sequins, they punch out all the sequins, and this is what's left. Rather than just throw it away, the mixed media crowd has found a use for it, and me as a polymer clay artist, I have found plenty of uses for it as well. So one of the things I did was, when I was experimenting, is I just took a white sheet of clay and I put the Punchinella on it and dotted in between the dots, and this is what I came up with. At first I was very heavy-handed. As you can see, it's all bloppy and blech-y, and so that's one of the things you need to do, is you need to be very light touch. You need to use a very light touch with this. You don't want to squeeze out gobs of it, because if you do, then you end up with something like this. And really, it's very hard to clean it up with this technique. I'll be honest with you. So just try it a few on a scrap, piece of clay like I did. Try it a few times and see what you come up with, but get a feel for the pressure you need. So that's that, and you can see as I went over here, it got really, really nice. I didn't use as much, and it's really a cool look. And when this came out of the oven, I started flexing, and I said, I can make a really cool bead this way. Imagine that as a bead. However, you're going to have to do it flat, or you're going to have to bake it multiple times. And even though, I don't know, I think it's best done flat, because the liquid clay does like to travel. And, when it does travel, then you got this mess here, and you don't really want that. So what I would do is I would use Primo if you're looking for something flexible. Primo is a really good clay to use. You could create your piece and then you could fold it up and somehow connect it. I was thinking you could actually drill holes through here, and then have a bead inside coming up, and it can be a pendant, or you can go this way even, to have a long pendant. And there's so many possibilities. I can imagine it as like a cuff bracelet, doing something like that. So that's that one. That's just to give you an idea of what can be done. Then I went, a little further. I wanted to use some of the different Punchinella that's not just a round piece. And I did this on the flower Punchinella, which is this one here. And you can find the Punchinella in our shop at createalong.com. We have different groupings of it. And we even have a sampler pack as well. But with this, what I did was, and I'm going to show you this, I'm just explaining right now. I put the Punchinella on, painted in the holes with some pan pastels, and then on top of the pan pastels I added a bunch of dots. So that's how I did that one. And then this is the little hearts, and all I did was put the Punchinella on top, and I literally just painted the liquid clay right into it. So let me set these aside and we'll get started playing. And I'm using the Primo clay. Oh, and here's one last one which I was just kind of wanting to get more of a 3D effect, these are actually the Color Me Magic transfer sheets that we have in our shop. You transfer them onto the clay, and then you can paint on them, you can draw on them, you can use markers. Well, you can also use liquid clay. So I dotted little bits of liquid clay on there. I mean, I was just playing around a little, but you can see where you can go with it to give it an extra dimension and really, you know, make it cool. So that's that. So I just used some round cookie cutters, and I cut out some discs. You know, I first conditioned the clay, and I cut out some discs to play with. So let's start with one here, and let's start with the hearts. So what I do is, it doesn't matter which side you use of the Punchinella, you just want to make sure it's not crinkled up there. And I'll just run my rod right over it. Because what I want to do is create a place where there's no, you know, ways for the liquid clay to get underneath. So I want a nice tight suction onto the clay, for lack of better words. So then I'm just going to come in here, and this one you don't need as much of a light touch with because you're going to cover the whole piece. So what I did was I just started sprinkling some around, and then I used a brush. And so you want to have a designated brush. You want something that's not a good brush, because you know, you don't want something that you're going to destroy, because this liquid clay, like I said, does not dry on its own. So whatever you use it for, it's never going to dry. Just remember that. Don't use one of your top of the line brushes for this. Have a designated brush to work with liquid clay, and you'll be good. Now, I was using a much harder brush, and I really saw the difference. I didn't like it as much. The softer brush flows nicer, so find one that's like has a nice little soft bristle and designate it. And now, so I put that much on there. I could always come back and add more. Like if it's a little lighter in an area and I'm not happy with it, I can add a little more. And it's basically self-leveling, which means it's going to flow. There's nothing you can do about it. It's going to travel, you know, when you do this. So I get it on there for this piece here, and what I've been doing is I've been preheating my oven, and so I take this over to the oven and then I peel it back, so I don't have to move it multiple times, because like I said, that liquid clay does like to go places, but you want to peel it back gently, and there you have it. How cool is that? I mean, it's just a simple technique, but you can get some really cool results from it. Now, I didn't show you that I first had put some of the pan pastels down, so let's do that next. So you want to wipe off your Punchinella with a paper towel to clean up. So let's set this aside. And I would stick this in the oven, and I'd bake this at the recommended temperature, which is, it says 300 degrees on the Kato clay, but the Primo is only 275, so you can go somewhere in between there. You know, it's a tricky one. You know, there's no real perfect answer. Just, you don't want your clay to burn, obviously. So I would do it around the 275 clay, and if it's not curing you, then you can go back with a heat gun, or you can stick it back in the oven. You know, there's no, like I said, there's no real for sure way that, you know, with the liquid clay. So let's do another one, and I'm going to show you first. We're going to use the flour. Actually, yeah, let's use the flour. Sorry guys, it blew away. So, same kind of thing. Press it down onto the clay. I want to use my rod. I'm not applying a lot of pressure because I'm not trying to indent it, you know, so much or whatever, rather than getting it so that there's no place for the liquid clay to go under. You know, just like when you do any other stencil. This is a stencil. So I just have a little bit of the pan pastels, and they come in these little pans, hence the name pan pastels. And I'm going to run this around and do it like a stencil, just like you would normally do a stencil, but obviously with my fingers. And really that's all there is to it. And so now I can come back with any color. Let's do blue. And then I can just dot in between. And I'm doing this right with the stencil left in place, because it kind of acts like a, you know, a wall, so it doesn't go all over the place. Now this one I'm doing a little dot in the middle of the flower. At least that's what I'm attempting to do. So I'm going very light with my touch. I don't want a big blob, because if you squeeze too hard, you will end up with a big blob. And then it likes to flow, so you can end up with a big mess. So let me just do this whole thing, and then I'll take it off so you can see and you get the idea. Now that one I did a little much. Now, if you had a Q-tip handy, you might be able to get some of it up. But you know what? This is all done by hand. It doesn't have to be the exact, it's not going to be the exact amount on every flower, but it's still going to look really cool. You know, just try your best and practice. Even practicing, you know, you get a better idea, but sometimes stuff happens. Such is life. So don't worry about it too much. Just have fun with it. Alright, I think I got, oh, missed this little area here. Just a little dot. Actually, I missed a couple areas. One dot. Just a little tiny dot on the edge so that it kind of all blends together is what I'm doing. And I like to clean off my tips every single time. Wipe it off, because then you can get a really big mess. So that's a definite tip. Wipe off your tips. Okay. And then I'm just going to peel this back gently. And now I have a really cool piece that can go right into the oven. And it's got little flowers on it. And it's just, this is actually a really sweet piece. I really like it, the way it looks. And you just bake it like so, and you can do anything you want with it. Obviously, you don't have to do it. You don't have to make circles. You can do squares. You can do whatever shape you want to do. Now, you know, you have the technique where you can use the liquid clay as something that you can pass through a stencil. And you know, you can use any stencil. These are just the Punchinella stencils, which we have, which we like to use. But you can also use a regular clear Mylar stencil, and it'll work just as fine. However, you're going to have a bigger spots. Let me use one and show you. There's generally bigger spots in you know, some of these other stencils that are on the market. I do have a lot of them. Here, let's try one like a chevron. Let's move this aside. And I have a piece here. I've got this little, well, you're not going to be able to see it fantastic, but you can use a regular plastic stencil like this too. You don't have to go out and, you know, get a whole bunch of new stuff, but you can use what you have as well. So let's just do this one. And this one's going to be an overall, so I'm going to just kind of go everywhere with it. And then use my paintbrush again. A little goopier than I probably should have done, but it's okay. It'll look good, hopefully. But I really like the look of the liquid clay on top of the white clay for some reason. It just, you can do this, certainly do this with any color. This is just, you know, one, it looks good on the camera so you guys can really see it. But you can also, I should mention this, you can also totally mix different colors of liquid clays, like drop them on top of each other to get some really cool effects. So just play around with it. You'll see that you can come up with lots of really neat and interesting ways to play with it. So there you have that. That's just the regular Mylar stencil. So these are easy to find in craft stores and whatnot. And I think it's just a neat little technique you can add to your repertoire, and you can see where you can go from there. It's got a lot of possibilities, and you know, it's not hard to do. Here's quite a few applications, and you saw it doesn't take a lot of time to do, and it's, you know, it's fun and simple, and the sky's the limit. So have at it. I'd love to see what you guys make with this. We have a Polymer Clay Tribe group over on Facebook. So come on over to Facebook, and or you can just go and put into your browser polymerclaytribe.com, and that'll take you directly to join the Facebook group. It's a free group, and there's tons of stuff going on. We all share pictures. We have tons of prizes we give away. Every 500 people that join the group, we have a big celebration, give away a big prize. So lots of fun stuff happening, lots of sharing going on over there. And if you're on Instagram add us. We have several Instagram pages. We have one for Polymer Clay TV, we have one for Create Along, and we have one for Polymer Clay Tribe. And if you want to get featured on the Polymer Clay Tribe Instagram, then all you have to do is join Polymer Clay Tribe, and we'll be featuring all the artists on there. So it's a fun thing to do, and I hope you enjoy this technique, and I hope you find some liquid clay and have fun with it. I did get this liquid clay on Amazon, and so I'll put a link up there for you where you can get it on Amazon. I want to say I got all of these in a set. This was a few years ago, so it does last years. I actually have liquid clay from way back when Sculpey first brought it out, and it was like in a tub, and it's still good. So it lasts a long time. So if you invest in these, you will have them a long time, you know, obviously based on how much you use them, but they don't go bad is what I'm saying. So I just wanted to mention and show you real quick also the difference between the liquid Sculpey silver and gold, and how you can do it a different way. It's a little thicker, and if you look at here, this is the gold, and I used this little stencil. This was from Heidi's Swap, I believe, and it came in like a mini set of stencils. I don't know if it's still available or not, but I bought it at Michael's a while back. And look at how cool that is. That's the gold liquid Sculpey. Now it's thicker, so it's thicker than the, at least mine is. It's thicker than the Kato clay, liquid clay, I should say. And so it was better to do this kind of technique. And I think I'm going to go, I don't need such a big piece. Let me just cut off this end here. And so you could lay this, you know, your stencil on any way you want, you know, it depends on what you're going for. And I think I kind of want to go like this. And so the same way we did it before, you want to make sure it makes a nice tight bond between the clay and the stamp, the stencil. So this time though, I'm going to use a squeegee. And I have these little cards that we've just started, we just got them. We're giving them out when you buy silk screens and things. So they come in really good use for this technique. Try not to scrunch up your clay like I just did. So this is thick, and you can probably see it's quite thick, you know. So you're gonna get a different kind of feel with this going across the clay, rather than it's much thicker. It's more like a caramely kind of consistency rather than the other clay. So that's why the card, to pull it across, works really well. So I'm just going to treat it like it's a silk screen. Try to be careful with it and not dig your clay like I'm doing here. You know, you might need more. You can put it on and work with it like it's a paint. And don't be afraid to use a nice amount of it, because you can put it back in the bottle. You know, it's not wasted if you know, use too much. So you want to just kind of cover the whole area. And you don't want it to be too light. You don't want it to be too dark. You just want a nice little coverage. So when you're happy with it and you like what coverage you get, then you can just peel up the stencil. And I'm not gonna spend too much time on it here. So I just want to show you guys how it works. And actually, you know what? At this point, you could do anything to add even more kind of interest into this. And now that I'm thinking about it, let's do that. You don't have to stick with just the liquid clay as is. You can add inclusions on top of it. This is an embossing powder, and really you can use any embossing powder, but you could sprinkle that on to get extra added, you know, interest to it. You could add glitter. Whatever you want to do, you can do at this point before you peel up your silks, before you peel up your stencils. So do whatever you want to do, and then you could peel it back and you'll see how cool this is going to look. And what a cool technique that is. Isn't that neat? And that's the silver and the gold. They're thicker, so they enable you to do some things that you may not be able to do with the liquid Kato, which is more runny. However, you know, I would suggest trying it and experimenting, because you never know what you can do until you experiment. I'm a big fan of experimenting, because look at how cool! Look at all the cool things you can do. I mean, this is it in gold without the added inclusions, and so you get a completely different look with that. So play around with it and see what you come up with. So have fun with it, experiment, and come share all your fun things that you make with us. So thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.